Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to a big game day edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. The Jets taking on the Vegas Golden Knights tonight, coming off their 8-1 beatdown of the Boston Bruins on Tuesday night. Lots to get to today. Some interesting comments from Scott Arniel and Logan Stanley yesterday, which we'll touch on a little bit, and we've just got Scott Arniel from this morning post the pregame skate before the Jets look to do something that they haven't done in a while against the Vegas Golden Knights, and that's beat them. 0-7 in their last 7 against the Vegas Golden Knights, all in regulation. And Vegas playing some good hockey coming into tonight on a 3-game winning streak, beating the Dallas Stars at home in their last time out, 4-1 win over the Ducks, a 1-0 win over the Edmonton Oilers, coming off their off day, the 6-0 loss to Utah the day after they beat the Jets 4-3 on the Jets part of that monster road trip that they just finished up. Going to be a good one tonight. It does look like Rasmus Kupari will be in for David Gustafsson, who is unfortunately in the protocol. That's the only expected change today. And we'll hear from Arniel a little bit later on, but some positive news on Nikolai Ehlers. I skated this morning again. It's now been 3 days in a row he's been skating. There's no clear time as to when he's going to skate in the non-contact jersey, but I was sort of hopeful that we might see Nikolai Ehlers on the weekend for Patrick Laine and the Montreal Canadiens visit. Would say that's incredibly unlikely at this point. And maybe, just maybe, we'll see Ehlers in those Duck Sharks games next week when the team goes on a quick 2-gamer before coming back home. Zach Whitecloud, of course, in lots of Manitoba content in on the Vegas Golden Knights, so we'll touch on that. Brandon Rewucki's going to jump on with us first up today, get his thoughts on Tuesday, the aftermath, and maybe a little bit more on our conversations that kind of came out of the big win on Tuesday, revolving the size, the toughness of the Winnipeg Jets, how they handle teams like Boston that want to go down the route that Trent Frederick and Boston did after they were getting embarrassed on the score sheet. So we'll touch on all of that. Jeff Hamilton's going to pop on as well. We'll probably kind of straddle between Jets and Bombers and CFL offseason with the Hammer. Get the latest on what he's hearing from around the 3-down league in the offseason, as well as a little hockey talk. And then later on today, a good friend of ours, Mark Arndt, who has been the longtime executive director of Tennis Manitoba, has moved on to become the chief growth officer of a company called the Picklr, which is looking to open 65 indoor pickleball facilities across Canada, including a flagship location right here in Winnipeg to start things off. So I'm sure many of you have tried or have played pickleball. Some of you probably are very active at it. I mean, it is the fastest growing sport in the world. So I'm looking forward to having Mark on to find out a little bit more about the growth of the sport and what this means for people that are playing it right here in Winnipeg. So all that, but a focus on this big one tonight between the Jets and the Vegas Golden Knights. Great to have you with us. Shout out to everybody in chat. If you're with us live on YouTube, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and make sure to give a thumbs up to today's episode. Big thanks to all the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Don't forget, tickets are available now for the Hockey Canada Ultimate 50-50 draw. You can go to hockeymanitoba.myspotify.com to get your tickets. First draw is on the 26th of December. Tell you more about that a little bit later on. Certainly want to thank Princess Auto. My Shopify. hockeymanitoba.myshopify.com. Princess Auto, of course, a Coolbet. We got to figure something out for a WST parlay after that 8-1 banger we cashed on Tuesday. We'll take your suggestions for that a little bit later on. Also, the great people at Rolly's Transfer, fansfirst.ca, Manitoba Battery, F Apparel, Canadian Club, Wallace & Wallace, the Winnipeg Jets, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, and we'll get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Remis, what's up? Are you keeping warm?
Man, it is crazy out there today. Holy jeez. When you look at your car and it says minus 30, and I was taking the kids to school. Just wanted to clarify this. The Jets 0-6-1, one regulation or one overtime loss to Vegas in the last 7, but 7 regular season games because they did win one playoff game. And they're in, stay tuned to this pickleball conversation. It's exploding in Canada. Really cool what's going to be coming to Winnipeg as soon as next season, because it's cold out there. People want to go inside and do activities, and we don't have the courts. It seems like they're coming. So that was pretty cool. And big game tonight. Jets, Vegas, rivalry game. I don't know how it's going to follow up to Tuesday's game with all the shenanigans, but I think whenever the Jets and Vegas play, it is heated. I do think they are rivals, just from the playoffs series that they've had, the two of them. There's a strong dislike for Vegas, coming into the league and winning a Stanley Cup and so soon. How dare they? How dare they? But I think it should be a great game this evening, and looking forward to having Jeff on for CFL offseason. I don't know if you saw Sergio Castillo. I know I'm all over the place. The CFL put out, who do you want your team to sign? And Sergio wants them to sign Schoen, Lawler. So we'll see what happens there. I'm excited to have Jeff on.
Yeah, we'll touch a little bit on the specifically on the Bombers offseason, where things going, and no one's got their ear to the ground more than the Hammer when it comes to the local squad as well as what's happening around the league. So looking forward to having all of that. Yesterday was. It's funny, Reem, I mentioned to you, that angry tweet that I put out after the game about Trent Frederick's act going after David Gustafson continues to keep a notification alert on my notifications because it's getting a lot of run. It was interesting to see, though, people obviously people in Winnipeg were paying attention to it. But there was a lot of people around the league talking about this. I saw a great piece on Barstool Sports from Jordy talking about Trent Frederick basically being a bit of a clown for what he did. And I will say this, I don't a lot of times I think Ken Campbell from the Hockey News, let's just say I don't agree with him a lot, but he had a video yesterday talking about something that we've often said, can we please get a copy of the code? Because from what we understood the code was supposed to be, or were told of by players, what happened on Tuesday night seemed to be quite outside of that code. And you hope this can be a galvanizing moment for the Winnipeg Jets. It certainly did seem that way from what we heard from the team yesterday. But I'm still pissed off about it, and I feel terrible for David Gustafson, who was put in a no-win situation, felt that, he had to stand up for himself and under his team when, being challenged by Trent Frederick. And now, after getting back into the lineup for only the third time this season, is out and in the protocol. And it is exactly what is wrong in a lot of ways with hockey. And this is a big, anti-fighting thing, but this was not like David Gustafson had done anything. He was essentially in the wrong place in the wrong time and put in an unviable position where he's either thought of as a coward or he's ending up in the protocol. And I'll be honest, 2 days later, I'm still not really over it.
Yeah, I feel like we should be more mad about it because it does remind me of this time last year. We were all up in arms about when Ryan Hartman slashed a defenseless Cole Perfetti in the face off a face-off. And I had to watch on TV where some of the commentators were seemingly okay with that type of act. And that was not a hockey play. It was a guy who had nothing to do with, Kaprizov took a hit and that was a legal hit and got injured, which was unfortunate, but that was, a bizarre play, and I thought the reaction was strange. But I think everyone is kind of united here, saying, hey, this is a guy who is an experienced fighter, 38 career fights against a guy who has never fought before, who's not even in the same weight class in terms of actual weight, feeling like he has to accept a fight where she's not equipped for, and got knocked out in his third game of the year. And now who knows when his next game will be, as he's in concussion protocol. So it seemed, really dumb, and it sucks for David Gustafsson. And however, as it did, we did have we had the most viewers at a time in the show than we have had in a month. But I think a lot of that was the Jets 8-1 pummeling over the Bruins. So it was, a lot of reaction coming in. Yeah, it was really dumb, and I don't know. We'll see what happens next time they play. Probably nothing, but I don't know. Maybe someone does go after him. I have no idea.
Well, January 30th, we're already circling that date. Boston, Massachusetts, the next matchup between these two. And listen, there's been the vast majority of comments and feedback I've had, kind of agree that it was Bush League by Frederick. There's been plenty of stupid, victim blaming on it as well. And listen, Rat River Rebel, I'm a fan normally of your takes. We appreciate you being a member, but comments like this are what is wrong with a large percentage of the hockey populace. And I have a hope this was a joke. Honestly, this wouldn't be an issue if Gus could take a punch. I'm not sure getting punched in the face is something that every single player needs to have in their toolbox. I'm not sure Cole Perfetti's very good at that. I don't think Nikolai Ehlers is very good at that, although Ehlers has dropped the gloves before. It was just a mismatch. It was completely unnecessary. There was absolutely nothing that caused it other than Jeremy Swayman sucked and the Jets were putting everything in the net. And but, it does bring up a conversation, a bigger conversation about the makeup of the Jets team and, how they fare against bigger, tougher teams that sometimes want to take it to that area. And Vegas Golden Knights are another good example of that tonight. But, yesterday this topic was still very much percolating around the club as they practiced and then went and did their annual visit to the HSC and visit the kids in the hospital. Here's what Arniel had to say about, if we could see another sort of a crazy game tonight.
That doesn't happen a whole heck of a lot in hockey anymore. It's a different game now, and that's why you guys are still talking about it. We're not. It's just one of those rare things that happen. Us winning 8-1 over the Boston Bruins, that doesn't happen very often. And then it was just one of those crazy evenings that happen. If you're in your division, you're in the West, you play teams a little more often, there is a little bit of a rivalry. There's people you dislike a lot more. And it just kind of brings out kind of that sort of that passion or that feistiness that comes with being in your division or being in your conference.
All right, there's Scott Arniel. I see Nicole says we got to get ready on. Listen. I won't touch that, but I saw all of your comments in the KNR chat. I agreed with almost all of them. I will just say that. We will agree to disagree. let's just leave it there. Here's a little bit more Arniel on on anything changes on their approach. Well, for a game like tonight against the Vegas Golden Knights, coming off of that game, after everything that happened, in particular in the third period.
I'd like to think I've been pretty consistent on you move away from what we did yesterday and move on to the next opponent. We felt the game that we played in Vegas was a really good one, and we were 3-3 with 5 minutes to go, gave up a rush chance goal against. That's something that we've done 1,000 times correctly, and we made a mistake on it, and we end up in the back of our net. But it just when we approach this team that's our next opponent, there's things that we have to do that whether it's our game plan or if it's individual things, if it's specialty teams, that we have to do to beat Vegas. And all the other part, that is all sort of a byproduct what happens when you play hard and you do all the right things. And there's no secret. We frustrated Boston last night because we played our game, and to me, that's why I don't want to get caught up in what happened in that whatever that was, that quick 5 minutes of sort of craziness. It's how well we played last night as a team, and we went out and played our game. And if we're going to have success against Vegas, we have got to do that. And that was last night was the whole roster playing the right way.
Certainly the coach very pleased with the way the team performed in that game against the Boston Bruins. Look for more of that tonight against the Vegas Golden Knights. You kind of mentioned there has been, not a lot of wins over Vegas over the last couple of years. 7 straight in the regular season. Here's what Arnie had to say about the lack of success recently against LV and what they're hoping to do this evening.
We won a game in a playoff game, but it's been our last 4, and that's how I look at it. I don't know, but that's yesterday's news. Like I said, we played this year. They're a different team. We're a different team. You know what? They're Stanley Cup champions a couple years ago. They got some guys that know how to win. It's no different than we run into Colorado. They give us the same kind of headaches. Dallas hasn't won yet, but they give us the same kind of headaches. That series we had against Florida. These teams that have won, there's a maturity, there's a confidence that they play with, and you have to be at your best when you play them. You really do. And we saw that. We learned that lesson against Florida down there. We weren't at our best. We came home and we played at our best, and it was a big difference. So. I'm not looking at any history against these guys. Like I said, I thought we had a good structured game going in Vegas. We felt that that was a game we should have won. And then that's doing that for 60 minutes and not making that mistake that gives them that one chance, because they do have game breakers. They're the best team in the Western, out in the Pacific Conference right now, and we look at everybody that comes into this building that you're not getting any easy points handed to you. You got to go get it. You got to go earn them.
All right. Now, Arniel, mentioned just how happy he was with the way that his team played from top to bottom on Tuesday. Here's a little bit more the head coach on just the good parts of the game Tuesday that they hope to carry over into this matchup against the Knights tonight.
Like I mentioned, our attack mode, the way we went after to the net, we had talked about that previously, about not doing that enough. I think we had 60 shot attempts last night, which for us is probably 20 higher than what we've been averaging. Just the fact that we did that, and what it does, it forces the opposition now to have to defend. Now maybe they're running the corners, or they got to figure out what their assignments are, whatever. We get people on the run, and when we do that, that's more like us, and that's what we saw earlier in the year. And I'm glad we got back to that. That has to be sort of in our DNA every game.
All right, Scott Arniel. This is one more, and again, this is from yesterday, but I think it puts a lot of some of the things that we talk about into perspective. When you see what other people are dealing with, and I think hockey players, as much as maybe any profession, sort of live in a bubble. Obviously they make a ton of money. They're on the road quite a bit. They're traveling on private jets. They're in 5-star hotels. You get into that grind. But this was a great piece from Arniel on, obviously dealing with the folks from the Canadian Armed Forces on the military night after that disappointing game on Sunday that didn't go the Jets' way. And, of course, yesterday's hospital visit as well. Here's what the coach had to say on all of that.
Yeah, the other day, the military day, for those guys to go out on the ice after, I'm not sure if everybody knew that, but they went out for a big photo with those guys. Just hearing those guys talk about, some of the deployments that some of these guys have been on, being away from their family. We're complaining about 11-day road trip, and listen to these guys talk about being away for years, extended period times from families, just the camaraderie that they have, the teamwork that they have to go through to certainly keep us safe, keep themselves safe. The hospital visit parts for us to make kids' day a little bit better, for them to see some of their heroes. I'll tell you, it really does. It shakes your knees a little bit sometimes when you go in and see and hear what some of these kids go through. And if we can make that day a little bit brighter and a little bit big smile on their face, I know they're excited. They know the guys are coming, and the guys look forward to it, and they get to be a little bit like Santa Claus and enjoy themselves and put some smiles on some faces.
Yeah, and there certainly were a ton of smiles. I had really kind of hoped to be a part of that yesterday. And I'm sure some of the local media were. We were obviously on the air at the same time, so it was unfortunate that we couldn't be there, but still have some great friends from all of my time at the HSC, and got a couple messages yesterday of just how much the visit of the Jets to the Children's Hospital means for the kids, and just what a great time was had when, unfortunately, there's not enough good times for so many of those young ones that are dealing with so many things that have them in the Children's Hospital. The other guy that spoke yesterday was Logan Stanley. And Logan Stanley, of course, was a big part of the melees in the third period, going up against a big bad dude in Kostelic on his side. I mean, before we got to that, Logan Stanley talked a little bit about playing with Ville Heinola and their work on a big second goal in the Boston game to put the team up 2-0.
Yeah, I think a little bit more comfortable. Obviously, playing with a new partner takes a few games to get used to it. And, Ville, with him being out at the start of the year, it's going to take him a couple games to get going, just like, me after an injury. So he's obviously coming into his own and playing good hockey. So, it was a great pass up to Gabe. And then, the other two guys made a nice pass, and Shaik buried it.
When you guys are playing catch, is there communication going on there? Like, not yet. I mean, take us through that process.
I don't think on that one. I think, you're trying to suck one guy in and beat him with a pass to free Ville up so he has space to make a play. You don't want to pass it too early, and then I think it was Pasternak, just stays on him, right? You've got to try and drag him over. So, it worked out well that time, and hopefully we can make some more plays like that.
All right, here's a bit of stat on another big Western Conference matchup tonight, the Vegas Golden Knights at home.
Yeah, I think Vegas always gives us a good game. I think they beat us in the playoffs, and they've kind of had our number, so we'll be ready for them.
Yeah. Do you analyze at all why they've had your number? I mean, it seems like you've been awfully close. Even the first meeting this season. You got off to a pretty good start. You had them down 1-0, and then all of a sudden, they find a way to come back. What's going on there that you can maybe counteract?
I think we just got to play a 60-minute game. I think, in that game we gave them a couple plays off the rush that went in, and we don't like giving up rush chances. So clean that up a little bit, and obviously they got some skill over there. So try and defend them the best we can, and play as a 5-man unit all over the ice. I think we'll have success.
Now, no surprise that there was still talk of what transpired against the Bruins on Tuesday when Stan met the media, and Rennie followed up with a question about just what happened there in the third period with the Bruins.
It's unfortunate to see a teammate get hurt like that. Not a huge fan, but stuff happens in the game. And then I think with me, just, you see teammate, one of your best friends, kind of down on the ice. You want to stick up for him any way you can. And, Laus did a great job after the fact, too, with Zadorov's a big customer. So, you talk about having good people in your room. That's what Gussie is, one of the best people, that I know personally. So, to see him go down and any of your teammates go down, that's never a good feeling. Doesn't sit well with anyone in our room, and we stick up for each other in here.
Just back to the Gus thing, is there a sense in the room that shouldn't have happened, that shouldn't have played out, and if so, how can that be avoided?
It's a tough one. Obviously, Gussie gets his gloves off, and I think Frederick's been in a lot more fights than David Gustafsson has, and I was standing right there, so if there was anyone he wanted to go, it didn't have to be Gus.
All right, there's Logan Stanley from yesterday. We've got a little bit more from Arnie, which we'll play a little later on, just an update on tonight's game. But as we mentioned, David Gustafsson is out. Rasmus Kapari is in tonight, and everyone hopes that the Gus bus will be back on the road very, very soon. Listen, Brandon Rewucki's coming up right away. Don't forget, gang, get your tickets now for the Ultimate World Junior 50-50 draw, which has launched in Manitoba. Get ready for the first draw on the 26th of December. when the tournament kicks off. This is a Hockey Canada initiative from coast to coast. We were all jealous of those massive numbers of the Alberta draw in the last couple World Juniors. Well, Manitoba's now in, and it is an all Manitoba draw. So as a Winnipegger or a Manitoban, when you buy your tickets, it goes into a pool, which will be won by a Manitoban. And the best part about it is the proceeds of the draw, the 50-50, the 50 that doesn't go to the winner, goes to grassroots hockey initiatives to grow the game right here in our province. There's a link in the description of the video right here. If you're with us on YouTube, you can just click that. But again, it's hockeymanitoba.myshopify.com. Options for you to get one ticket all the way up to a massive 999 tickets at a great rate. And again, all the money stays here in Manitoba. And wouldn't that be nice the day after Christmas to cup a big win as Canada drops the puck on the World Junior Championships? We're getting ready for 2025. And if you and your family have a move scheduled in 2025, folks, you're going to want to call our friends at Rolly's Transfer, family owned and operated for over 60 years and the most trusted name in moving services here in Manitoba, with an extensive logistics business that takes them around the city and province every single day. They offer flexible routes, flexible timing, and great prices on that move. And of course, the famous white glove treatment that Rolly's is famous for. What you're going to want to do is check out their website at rollys.com. Click on that request an estimate feature up in the top right and put in WST in the promo code for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies for Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners. Then let her know when and where you're moving and what needs to go. And the friendly Rolly staff will be in touch right away with a great quote to get you locked in and ready for your next move. Moving in 2025, get the white glove treatment from Rolly's. Find out more and request an estimate today over at Rollies.com. We told you it was coming, and now it's here. It is freaking freezing right now. I will say, if it was going to get this cold, the perfect timing was for when the Vegas Golden Knights were in town. But listen, when you're getting ready for Christmas, give a gift that matters with the help of Manitoba Battery. Don't let your loved ones be stranded in the cold with a vehicle that won't start. Make sure they're equipped to handle what's ever thrown at them this winter with a NOCO 1000 amp booster pack for only $139.50, or get them a set of 25-foot booster cables for just $65. Now, you can also treat yourself and grab that ice fishing flasher battery you need, or that sled battery that needs to be replaced, all for the best prices in the city, beating the pants off the big box stores every single day. Whether it's for you or your loved ones, let Manitoba Battery help give you a gift that matters this Christmas. Learn more at manitobabattery.com, now with 2 locations to serve you. And hey, I know many of you are thinking about other quandaries you have for the Christmas gifts. Listen, if there is a guy on your list that might want to up their menswear game, now's the time to get to F Apparel and pick up gift cards, because right now until Christmas, their gift card sale is on, where any gift card purchase of $100 or more will get another 15% added on. Free money. Yes, please. With the 15% gift card boost right now over at F Apparel, you can use those on those amazing custom shirts, custom suits, and the biggest and best selection of menswear accessories in town. They're at 190 Smith Street. You can pick those up there, or check them out online and shop online and pick up those gift cards with the 15% bonus up until Christmas at F. That's EPH Apparel.com. All right, let's bring in our pal Brandon Rewucki for some Jets talk. Rew, what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. It's having an epic battle with the sun right now in the office here, but I'll lose that. Other than that, doing all good.
Yeah, well, looking forward to this one tonight. I'm not really over Tuesday yet, to be perfectly honest. For good reasons and bad reasons. Always fun to light up a team like the Boston Bruins. But then again, you also don't usually see some of the nonsense that we saw in the third period. I mean, what were your thoughts on Tuesday before we get to tonight? Both the good, lighting up the Bruins and putting a snowman on the card, and then obviously what happened in the third period.
You know, it's funny. I think it might have been the Bruins' last game, but I actually watched Boston against the Flyers on the weekend. And it was basically a continuation of that game into the Winnipeg game. The Bruins are borderline unhinged right now. They're just unraveling on ice seemingly at any sense of adversity. I mean, I know the Bruins have always kind of played, like a rough and tumble style, even with, Bergeron in the mix and things like that. But the lack of composure that's gone on with the Bruins basically all season long is so far and away different than what we've kind of seen out of them over the last several years. I mean, I know this season has kind of been the year from hell for them, but I saw it on the weekend against the Flyers where you had McAvoy losing his mind at a 19-year-old Michkov, assaulting him up and down the ice anytime they were out there together. And then you go into the game against Winnipeg. And, I mean, it was a pretty relatively innocuous game up until the latter part of the the end of the second and the third period. It wasn't like it was a game filled. There's some games where it's like huge hits and a couple scraps, and there's just the temperature's always up there. It just seemed like Boston mentally unraveled the second the game just slightly fell out of their grasp there. And it's just not what we're kind of accustomed out of seeing from them. And I'd be fascinated to know the reason why, but it's pretty evident that their early season slump, this is a new Bruins team. Like, it's almost like the kickstart of a new Bruins era. They are not the consistently dominant team of years past. And I wonder if that's kind of led to them just losing their minds there. Like, it was, I was just blown away at how the end of the game happened there, and Boston just kind of embarrassing themselves, to be quite frank, over the last 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you, and I think like what Trent Frederick did was absolute bush league. I've mentioned that here, social media, and we've had a lot of talk about it. But it's funny you bring up McAvoy, because to be honest, to me, that all started at least like I was already on edge, and I imagine some of the Jets were, and certainly Arniel were, based on the headshot from McAvoy to Cole Perfetti, which was completely unnecessary, was penalized, and once again, the puck ended up in the back of the net.
And I don't know what his deal is either, man. Like, I every time I watch the Bruins, there's like this, I guess lack of composure is the best word, but almost like a recklessness to his game this year. And he's a hell of a player. It's just you usually don't see players of that caliber just completely lose it on the ice in situations like that. I don't really have an answer for it. Like, it's really bewildering how the Bruins have, not really responded extremely well to the coach firing. I know the record's been better than what it was early in the season, but I mean, they're still kind of hovering right around the playoff line right now. But it seems like their heads just aren't in it right now. And they're over the past few games, for sure, it feels like Boston's been way more worried about "quote unquote" settling the on ice score than to try to keep games competitive for the most part. So it's really, really bizarre. I don't really have a great answer for why it's going this way for them at this point. But you kind of wonder as we move forward here, and even to a different point, man. Like, with the Four Nations coming up, there's always been a bit of a thing about, can the Americans stay composed during some of these big moments? And, McAvoy did it at the World Juniors a few years back with Team USA. So, I mean, it's not like he's a complete nut job half the time, but it's just things like that where it's like you wonder, when the chips get down there, how are they going to react at that tournament? But right now for the Bruins, they're basically in free fall mode mentally from the games that I've watched out of them so far.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were the funny thing about that game was that it was 3-1 going into the third period. I mean,
that's what I mean. Yeah,
that was still a game that was very much up in the air, and we can talk about the play of the first line and just how good they were. But as beautiful as those two big goals were that Scheifele scored of the first three, to me, the play that actually really stands out was that fourth goal early in the third period, which was, I mean, the Jets at their best. I mean, pressuring on the forecheck, taking the puck away. And, I mean, I'll just get your thoughts on Mark Scheifele's game in that, as great as those goals were, the takeaway, the pass to Kyle Connor, and then paying the price with a hit and then some from Nikita Zadorov that sent his helmet flying before he went to high-five his teammates after the Jets went up 4-1.
Yeah, and I think you kind of alluded to this either before or after the game, but there's no coincidence that Scheifele had his best game in months when Don Sweeney's team is up there on the ice, right? I mean, that was an FU performance, no doubt about it there. There was a little extra in Mark's game there, and he was fantastic. I mean, even the one-time goal from on the feed from Morrissey, obviously Josh does what he does best, and he's flying all over, and he finds a tight seam and is able to get it to Scheifele. But like to one-time a hard pass like that in the upper half of the net, there's really there's only a few guys in the league that can do that consistently, and Scheifele's one of them. So it's funny that top line as a whole it seems like every time they're about to be broken up, they come out with a breakout performance, and Scott Arniel almost has no choice but to roll with them again for the next game. I haven't loved some of their previous 4 or 5 games, to be honest. There's been a couple of big time duds mixed in there, and I wondered how close we were getting to some kind of a lineup shakeup, and maybe Ehlers being out has prevented the team from doing that. But then you have a performance like that, and it's, that's why they're together, because when they're on, they're really on. It's just, if you're off it, can you be a little closer to a B game than a D minus sort of a deal that I think they were drifting a bit towards in the last little while.
The only thing I'll say on that is that, listen, I mean, I know we've talked a lot about the crazy schedule that the team went through. I mean, it wasn't just them. I mean, that team was on E, I think, on a couple, the last 2 home games. I mean, the St. Louis game and then the Columbus game. I mean, there wasn't any obvious changes, I think. And to your point, I mean, with Nikolai Ehlers out, I mean, what are you going to do? What's going to make that? What's going to give you a better chance to win and score
It's just
goals?
change for the sake of making change, right?
Yeah, and listen, as I say, with it's a good thing they didn't change it going into the Boston game, because those guys completely took over that hockey game. And yes, Mark Scheifele did make that statement. I mean, obviously the question, and I thought Murat, I should pull this up right now, as Murat's got a really interesting piece in The Athletic that went up early this morning. And it's on the Jets' biggest strengths and weaknesses after 30 games and the stats behind him. And he mentioned a quote from Arniel that he gave him in September. He goes, "I'm not going to use names, but there's been lots of players over my career where analytically you're going, what's he doing on our team?" And then you go, "I need this guy on my team." It might be as simple as the dressing room. Maybe that's the guy we need to have in our room. Maybe there's a certain element that he has that you just need on your hockey team. And Murat posted that and said he couldn't help but think of that quote when Logan Stanley fought Kostelic in the aftermath of the Frederick Gustafsson incident later on. And Adam Lowry is able to do it, but as presently constructed, he is that guy, and you do not want Adam Lowry to be out there settling scores and fighting all the battles for the entire Winnipeg Jets. Did Tuesday night, did we kind of see the reason why Stanley has played as much as he has and what they feel he brings to the team?
I don't really think so, to be honest. I mean, Adam Lowry did have to settle the score immediately after the Stanley fight in a sense too. Although, maybe while watching that, I kind of thought that was more the captain being like, A, you don't come into our barn and act like
exactly what
complete buffoons. And B, in a funny way, it was to let's calm the temperature down a little bit here, which is odd because it's 2 heavyweights going toe to toe. But then you didn't see it could have devolved into a gong show after that, but it didn't do so there.
Yeah, if he went and pulled a Frederick and grabbed like Pavel Zacha or one of these
Then we're
other
in
guys,
trouble. Yeah.
we're probably having a very different conversation. And that list of penalties in the third period is a hell of a lot longer.
Yeah, no, we're on the same page there. I mean, look, there's no doubt Logan Stanley can bring a more physical element to the defense than a lot of the guys that are out there, especially with Sandberg being out. It's a smaller D-core as it stands right now. He can drop the gloves, but would I call him a fighter? Not really. It's still relatively infrequent that we see Big Stan get into scraps. And it's not like he's a Chara level enforcer as well on top of it. I can I get that fans will predominantly undervalue things like intangibles and maybe certain aspects that can't be measured by a specific stat. But I feel like the Jets have 2 or 3 guys in the press box right now that can give you more on the ice than Logan Stanley. I don't have a good answer as to why he's been in the lineup, especially over somebody like Colin Miller, who he's been, as far as third pairing defensemen go, he's been tremendous this year. Like he hasn't given the team a reason to be out of the lineup there. I wouldn't, personally, I wouldn't point to the Kostelic fight as this is the reason for him to be in the lineup. I just think that the team they've just invested in him and they are not willing to give up on him, and they have basically a 180 differing viewpoint on him than the majority of the fan base does, and that's why he's been in the lineup the majority of time that he's been healthy so far this year.
I thought Kevin Sawyer had a great point yesterday, and he said, you know what, can you argue that the Jets are putting out a lineup that might not give them, quote unquote, the best chance to win based on other options? He said, absolutely. But at this point in the season, because of where they're at with Heinola and with Stanley, they are trying to give these guys the opportunity to go out and show that they are options and can deliver what they hope to become later on in the season. Now is sort of the time to be doing that. You probably don't have that same sort of wiggle room, if you will, later on in the year when you're playing for a playoff spot, when you're getting towards the playoffs. And that's why both of those guys, are getting, the opportunities that they are getting right now. But to me, I mean, and again, we probably don't have this conversation very often because we don't see a lot of what happened on Tuesday very often at this point. But you do when you get later on in the playoffs. And think about what Vegas is, what the Florida Panthers are, and no surprise that those are the 2 teams last standing at the end. There's a lot of talk about the Winnipeg Jets. And again, I don't really know how to define team toughness. I think there's a lot of things that we can put into that, but I will ask you, just in general, are the Jets tough enough right now, and do they need some more of that in their lineup, whether it's Logan Stanley or whether it's other players that aren't right now with the Winnipeg Jets?
I mean, it's not the question you asked, but the Jets aren't a soft team, which in a way is like, are they tough? They're not soft. So, I mean, that's kind of the main takeaway that what we've seen so far. But are they a tough team? I would think so. I mean, they're not. I wouldn't put them in the class of like a Florida or maybe how we viewed Boston for so many years. They're not necessarily a heavyweight team, but I don't look at the Jets as a finesse group either. That's just going out there trying to outskill you every single night. I think, like, if you take a look at the forward group, for example, first, Mark Scheifele has taken some big steps in, I believe, being more physical, whether it be on the forecheck or inside his own zone. Gabe Vilardi doesn't shy away from any contact. Kyle Connor isn't a bruiser or anything like that, but it's okay to have, 1 or 2 water bug types on your team. If the rest of your top line, for example, is going to be more than capable of holding their own in the physicality department. I mean, we talked about Adam Lowry and what he brings. Obviously, no argument to be had there. The fourth line is chock full of it. Nino has it in spades. Appleton as well. Like I don't know. I look at the Jets forward group, but I don't think it's a lack of toughness that's holding them back. I think maybe on the back end you could point to a legitimate lack of size in certain spots. I mean, it is a fair point. It doesn't mean they're doomed to fail, because Colorado had a very, I would call, an undersized decor when they won the Stanley Cup a few years back, and I think Josh Manson was the only guy they had that was above 6'1", right? For the most part, they just, hey, the guys we have are what we have, and we're going to overwhelm you with speed and skill, and it worked for the Avalanche. But yeah, it's kind of hard to ignore that there's a lot of teams, a lot of champions of the past several seasons that have opted to go big over smaller puck moving defensemen. So I would not call the Jets a team that isn't tough or is lacking toughness, but are they maybe lacking some size in their top 4? I wouldn't disagree with that sentiment. But I also don't think that Logan Stanley being on the third pair necessarily solves that either, right? So it's kind of a different discussion that we get into at that point. But I would never think the Jets are going to go into a playoff series and they lose in 6 or 7 games because, just quite frankly, they didn't have the guts or the physicality that the other team was offering them over the course of a series.
Yeah, and I mean, that certainly wasn't in the Colorado series. I mean,
It was the opposite, maybe.
I was exactly. I was just about to say that. I mean, they were faster. They were. I mean, there is an element, and I don't know what we describe this as, of that bite to the game, that competitiveness, that fight in the game. I mean, Colorado won all the battles. They were either getting there first, they were either more successful in them in that series, and if you don't have the puck, you're not scoring. And the Jets were basically chasing them for the better part of games 2 through 5 in that series. But if you have the opportunity to make it a round or two, and it becomes the battle of attrition that the Stanley Cup playoffs are, there is an element of nasty that those teams need to have. And I mean, the Florida Panthers are the perfect example. And man, when I think about the Panthers, I think about the Jets back earlier on in the Maurice era. And I mean, maybe this is a characteristics of Maurice type teams, but I mean, we remember how nasty the Jets were early on. Now, they were also the most penalized team in the league, and it killed them in a lot of cases. And they kind of had to dial that back because it seemed like they were going into every game down a couple power plays automatically just from the way they went about it. I mean, I love the Lowry line, and I think that is the identity line of the Winnipeg Jets. Outside of that line, though, up in the forwards, there is world-class talent. There's world-class skill. There's a lot of fast players. The fourth line has been great. I do wonder, though, if if when Kevin Cheveldayoff is sitting here looking at his team, looking at what can make them a more tough out come playoff time, if there isn't not necessarily guys that fight, maybe if they can, that's great. It doesn't happen that often. But playing with that physicality, that toughness, and that nasty that, frankly, a team like the Florida Panthers and the Vegas Golden Knights have always had.
It's a fair point. The one thing those teams all did very well, though, is their big, nasty players also had like a baseline skill level, right? Like, it's not just let's bring in big just to be big. There needs to be an element of can you skate? Can you do all the basic things that we expect out of, a higher end NHL playoff team? Those guys kind of have all of that in spades. So that's always the difficult part of it, where it's just, you can't add size just to be bigger, because if you're 6'4" or 6 feet and the guy goes around you, it doesn't really matter how tall you are. But, if you can utilize that size to your advantage, then yes, there's just, I don't know. To me, I kind of lean a little bit more towards the old school line of thinking when it does come to specifically the blue line, at least, and that, if you get some big boys back there, it is difficult. It becomes a lot more difficult to score come playoff time. But can the Jets find some of those guys, and our team's willing to give them up, and are they a right fit with what the Jets have to offer? I kind of wonder with how Chevy's operating this season, and with the personnel at their disposal right now, if I wonder if maybe they're targeting a right shot defenseman at some point to slot in beside Josh Morrissey on the top pair, which would allow you to push DeMello down to pair 3. But it seems like Chevy is kind of along that mindset too, and he's maybe either waiting for the right target to become available or whatever it might be. But like talking about size and toughness and things like that, and if the Jets are lacking in that category, I wonder if right shot D is the area that they go heavy in on. And if it's not there, it's got to be the third line at this point, right? Where you've got two, in this iteration at least, you've got two smaller wingers on the outside, and then a lack of an impact down the middle, but also a lack of size there as well. So I think if you're going to bring in that element, it would be in one of those or both of those two positions that would enhance what the Jets already have here.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm going to put this to you, but I will put this to the chat, and we'll get some feedback in a minute from everybody. But why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray? Shout out to Trev and the gang. Happy holidays to all of them. What is your Like if you're in Kevin Cheveldayoff's office right now, what is your target? What is the best case scenario addition to the Winnipeg Jets? I saw somebody bring up Jamie Alexiak, who would look good. I mean, a very big guy that could handle things. But I mean, Brandon, you sort of just mentioned the type of player. But if you are Cheveldayoff and you're not necessarily looking for right now or in the first week of January, but at some point before the trade deadline, assuming this team is a playoff team, to help be different and have better results come Stanley Cup playoff hockey in the spring?
Well, I'll give you one scenario that's probably unlikely to occur, but especially with all the holiday shopping going around, like us, I'm sure you're like me, where if I can get it done in one stop, let's just load it up there.
Yeah, that's why. Just go to Royal Sports and then
go to Royal Sports and everybody gets a gift from there. You're good to go. But I mean, if you're shooting for the moon, I've always liked the idea of Rasmus Andersson and Nazem Kadri coming in a package deal, and we solve our two issues in one swoop and away we go. Obviously, there'd be a lot of moving pieces and something like that. The salary, the no trade, I get that. But just as far as like a stylistic fit, even though Andersson isn't like a big 6'4" guy, he's just a hell of a defenseman.
Oh
even if it was
God.
Uyghur too. Like, I mean, I don't even care at that point, but something like that. Like, I wonder if Chevy, in a bid to kind of like, I'm going to solve this once and for all, and we don't do this every deadline, like that would be a move that would take care of that, which is, I wonder if he'd be willing to pull a trigger on something like that. On a smaller note, I mean, I know Jets fans might not like to hear this, but I know they were in on the Rasmus Ristolainen sweepstakes a few years back when he was moved to Philly. He's a completely different defenseman now than when he got traded. I mean, Brad Shaw, the assistant coach on the Flyers, is I don't know if you're familiar with Jeff Stoutland and the Eagles, Huss, the old famous O-line coach there, but like you go in Bradshaw University and you come out as a finished product on the back end. I mean,
Kevin O'Connell for quarterbacks.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah, he went into the factory. He got a few parts redone and an update to his mainframe there. And I mean, I legitimately think Ristolainen would be a good support piece on a pairing, and maybe Chevy feels the same way in terms of, Morrissey's going to handle all the puck handling capabilities on that line, and you just need somebody to be big and nasty beside him. I wonder if that's something, just because with GMs around the league, we always see, like, if they're interested in a target, they'll kind of circle back if they become available again. So I wonder if a little bit further down the line here, if they're looking to beef up the back end a little bit, if that might be a target for the Jets there. And the big thing again would be that he is a right shot defenseman and he's not a rental either. So he's in the fold for I think two for sure this season and another one, maybe two more seasons after that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're right. That is the dream ad. Rasmus Andersson is so damn good.
So good.
And, I don't think he really gets the credit that he deserves around the league, just simply because of where Calgary is right now, the exodus of all those other players. And I'll tell you what, on top of it, he might be on the best contract in the league as well.
It's up there.
I'm pulling this up right now. Rasmus Andersson makes $4.55 a year. Nazem Kadri is a little different. Like, would you love him on your team? Absolutely. You get nervous about 3 more years at $7 million.
Yeah.
He's already 34 years old. Yes.
It's a gamble. There's no doubt yet.
But I mean, there is a cost of doing business. And obviously the cost of acquiring those players would absolutely be significant. You're talking about some younger players, which is what Calgary would want. You're absolutely trading your first round pick and maybe some other draft capital. I mean, that would be a really significant all-in move. But in a lot of ways, it would sort of be put up or shut up for these next couple seasons while you have Rasmus under contract. And then, listen, if you were lucky enough to have him, maybe you've got some real success and he wants to stay, great. But that number's going to double when you sign him to a new contract.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And I got to run, but I mean, it's also not a rental either. Like, that's, you'd be solving it and you're done, right? Like, it's the final first round pick that gets shipped out for a guy in season there, and then you have everything settled, right? So Just we can manifest it as a community. I just want to throw it out there. I don't know how likely it is, but that would be, talk about a jolt of electricity to the city and the dressing room. Man, I don't know. I like storylines. I'd be down for it.
A lot of these things we're talking about with this team, I think, would be significantly different if something like that could happen. Yeah. Hey, have a great one. I know you got to run. Thanks for doing this. Enjoy the game tonight.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll talk to you guys next week. Have a good one.
There's Brandon Rewucki. Check out Skates and Plates wherever you get your favorite pods. Listen, let's get to the chat right now. I'm interested in hearing what people have to say on our Why Not question of the day as far as who you would like to, if they're trade targets for the Winnipeg Jets based on what you hope this team can do, what they need to do better in the playoffs. And for some people, team toughness and, that grit, sandpaper, whatever you want to call it, might not be a concern. To many it is. Let us know in the chat. Of course, fan feedback on Winnipeg Sports Talk is brought to you by fansfirst.ca, your number one spot for both buying and selling Winnipeg Jets tickets on the resale market. If you've got an extra pair, don't worry about some of the bigger companies, shall we say, that are tacking on massive fees to it all. It's the best part about Fans First. What you see is what you pay. No fees. Zero. That number when you're buying a ticket, that's what you're getting charged. And you know exactly what you're getting back when you're doing it Fans First with great customer service as well. All right. Well, choices TK right off the bat. I'm not sure whether this was even out of Brandon's mouth yet, but mentioned Rasmus Andersson. T. Will, what about trading for Brendan Dillon? Brendan Dillon's having a real nice run. He and another former Jet, Johnny Kovacevic, playing on a real good team in New Jersey right now. Let's see here. What else? Anderson, but that would cost too much. What is too much if it thinks it gives you a legitimate opportunity to win the Stanley Cup? And as I say, it's not a rental. You would have him for 2 seasons. Now, frankly, that probably makes the cost more as well, and he's on a great contract. But at the same time, if you're taking Kadri with the contract that he has, that might be something that Calgary would a little bit more be a more amenable. Chris Mulligan said Bowen Byram would be ideal. Byram, of course, is part of that group in Buffalo. And Buffalo lost their 8th straight last night. They're in a pickle right now. Kevin Adams is under so much heat. They got 2 number 1 overall picks there. Rasmus Dahlin's the captain of the team. I don't think he's going anywhere. Owen Power is a pretty big guy on that back end. Still very young, but signed to a long-term deal. I don't know what the cost to get a guy like that out of Buffalo would be. It would certainly be significant. You're talking about a first overall pick that's signed with cost certainty moving forward. But he would right there. SK, yes, Brandon. Best D that would fit on the Jets is Rasmus Andersson. He's amazing and nasty, etc. Let's see, what else do we have? Rat River Rebel. Chris Tanev was the piece. He was worth more than Toffoli. And listen, Tanev, great pickup by the Leafs right now. They identified that. They realized that it was that was the price they had to pay and make it happen. Miller Time 1980 mentions as Adam Larson. He is a righty. And David D says, no Risto. Come on now. And Trini, I always thought Risto would be a solid addition for a pairing with Heinola. Keep your thoughts coming in. Yeah, exactly. Owen Power. Wow, that is a moonshot. You do wonder, though. You do wonder at what point Buffalo goes in a different direction. Although the different direction might be a different guy managing the hockey club as opposed to Padula's lapdog in Kevin Adams. Keep your fan comments coming in the chat. Fan feedback brought to you by fansfirst.ca. By fans, for fans, no fees. Check them out today at fansfirst.ca. All right, Hammer's going to join us in about 5 minutes or so. But let's hear from Scott Arniel a little bit more from Arnie. You know, we played some of the aftermath, if you will, of the Tuesday game. Heard from Logan Stanley. Tonight, though, quick morning skate, optional for the Winnipeg Jets. Here's Arnie on the game tonight against Vegas Golden Knights.
They're good in all facets of the game, and they defend real well. They're a big, heavy team that gets in on the forecheck. Good specialty teams. You know, they're a team that's recently won the cup, and they've got a lot of experience back there, and you know they play the right way.
And in terms of your team, you know, as you mentioned, you know, you want to parlay some of the things that you did do well against Boston on Tuesday night, but it's also now been an extra couple more days to prepare and to rest up. So would the expectation be that your team should be close to itself again tonight?
Yeah, I hope so. The big thing for me was practicing yesterday, something that we haven't been able to do a whole lot. We got to get 2 or 3 drills in there that we felt would clean up some areas, but it'll help us today against Vegas. And you know what, I can't stress enough, the players are actually excited to get out there and get their touches, get playing or practicing and doing some of the things they haven't been able to do. So we're going to do it again tomorrow, and it's just something that I think every team is going through it. You know, every team is. I listen to coaches talk about the limited amount of practice time, and just being able to do that to lead us into tonight's game, hopefully will go a long way.
There's Arnie teeing up this one tonight. Now, here's it's a good one. John Liu, working hard, asked Arnie about the game plan for tonight and how they can get a win against Vegas.
Scott, what specifics it came out of Tuesday, but also we worked on yesterday that you feel served you well against an opponent that's been tough on you a couple of years now?
No chance. I'm not telling you what we're doing. I'm not. I mean, that's our game plan. I don't mean to be disrespectful. We did lots of things yesterday that were a little bit of follow-up to what we from Boston. There's some things in our last 10-game segment that we looked at that we wanted to improve on. Then there's some stuff for tonight's game against Vegas that there's some specific things that we need to do tonight.
All right, a noble effort from our guy John Liu, but Arnie keeping the game plan close to the vest. A bit of a lineup update and injury update with Rasmus Kupari coming into tonight. Here's the coach.
Just Coop will go in, obviously, for Gus.
Right. Any further word?
No, just same as Gus is where he was yesterday. He's got a little bit of a time period here. You got to wait before he gets himself back into, the protocol that you got to go through.
Did Nikolai skate earlier this morning?
Yep, he's been on. It's been 3 days for Nick.
Okay.
Any idea when he might rejoin the group?
No, not yet. No. Okay. Haven't got the yellow jersey and practice thing yesterday. Yeah. Might have it for tomorrow, but I have no idea yet.
Oh.
All right, so potentially Ehlers with a non-contact in the near future, but as I said off the top of the show, I was hoping we might see Ehlers in the lineup Saturday night when Liney and the Canadians come to town, but I think it's more likely that he'll continue skating, and maybe we'll see Nick back in for those back-to-backs in California next week when the Jets take off for a quick 2-game, and probably a nice time for them to get out of the city with it being as cold as it is. Nikita Chibrikov's looked great in his, back in the lineup. Scored again. He's now played 2 NHL games. He scored in both of them at a 2-point game last night. Here's just Arnie on Chibrikov and how he can build off of his performance against Boston.
Yeah, there was some things, kind of like Lambeau. There was some things that, we did some video with him yesterday just to follow up without the puck, because he's a type of guy with the puck. He does the right things. His competitive edge, getting inside, kind of going to the hard areas. He's real good at that. So that's just with most young guys. You're just kind of showing them, hey, look, we don't have it. There's certain areas you need to get to. Maybe how you defend in our end of the rink, little things like that. And there wasn't a whole lot of them with him. I thought it was a real good game, and he just has to take that same kind of attitude and go out there again, play hard like that.
A lot of energy to the lineup, obviously scored the 8th goal in the game, and has looked not out of place at all in both of his opportunities to play in the NHL. He'll get game number 3 of his career in the bigs tonight for the Winnipeg Jets. One more from the coach, a little update on Dylan Samberg, who continues to rehab from a broken foot.
Scott, just one on Dylan Samberg. Is he still in the boot?
Sometimes.
Okay. What is his?
He is actually no, but he is. He needs it to walk around, but he is doing some off ice training, so which is good.
What is it? Any idea what the next steps look like for him?
Yeah, he's still in the new year. It's still broken. We have to wait for that to heal 100%. So he's still the new year.
So we won't be getting Slamberg back for Christmas, but hopefully into the new year, get 54 back up on the side of Neil Pionk. And but hey, Remis, credit to Hayden Fleury. Listen, I didn't think that he would be a player for the team. I thought maybe he'd be one of the extra defensemen. Maybe he was playing with the Manitoba Moose. I'd have to say amongst, players that are playing right now with the Jets that, were in training camp and we sort of where we thought that they would be, Hayden Fleury has done a heck of a job at showing that not only is he capable of playing a regular shift in the NHL, but showing that he can be an important part of a piece that of a team that, wins hockey games.
Yeah, shout out to Dave Manuka, Legal Curve Huss for grabbing those clips there. And yeah,
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, Hayden Fleury. He's playing a big role for the Winnipeg Jets this year. 19 games, chipped in 6 assists, playing about 16 minutes a night. And he's really had to elevate his role since this Dylan Samberg injury. He's a bit of a bigger guy, showing he can block shots as well. So, nice pickup there this offseason where, you come in with this logjam of Miller, Fleury, Dylan Coughlin, and seems like Hayden Fleury is the one who separated himself to an elevated role than when he started the season, Huss.
Yeah, just looking at chat. Kyle C. Hustler, don't let Lawless leave Winnipeg with 2 points tonight. I wish I could be more impactful in that. I probably won't be, but I share your hopes. Few other guys that are being mentioned. Carrier from Nashville. That's Jeremy Brown, who also mentioned Brock Nelson. I think there's a lot of action on Brock Nelson right now. Interest, at least, from around the league. So there's, and I know someone was complaining earlier, I can't remember who it was, I lost it, about, having guys like Chisholm and Kovacevic leave. Listen, this happens all the time with waivers. And listen, if there were trade takers, they would have traded them, knowing that those guys were probably going to be gone. But that is what happens when, you're 7, 8, 9, defensemen deep. And, you can decide whether, picking one guy over another guy was a mistake or not. But those are the conundrums that general managers get in all the time. And, we often see guys on waivers or guys that get let go. Hayden Fleury's a perfect example. And you get into another situation with a right fit and, kind of establish yourself as NHLers. So we're going to get to a little Bomber CFL and some hockey talk with Jeff Hamilton for a few minutes. And then if you're a pickleball player, you're definitely going to join us a little later on. Great interview coming up with Mark Arndt. But hey, we're a couple weeks away from Christmas, and our friends at Princess Auto are ready for the big day. Great deals on right now at your local Princess Auto, always featuring the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start some new ones for 2025 is waiting for you right now at Princess Auto. Of course, you can visit them Panet Road, Portage Avenue West in-store, out in Brandon as well, or shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. And with the great deals at Princess Auto, a Princess Auto gift card might also be a perfect gift. Princess Auto, proudly founded in Winnipeg, headquartered in Winnipeg, supporting all of our local teams, and a great sponsor and supporter of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Huge thanks and a happy holidays to all of our friends over at Princess Auto. Listen, we got some Christmas parties coming up. The holidays will be here. You'll be getting together with friends and family and having some drinks. If you've got whiskey lovers in your circle, do not miss the opportunity before it's gone to get to your local Manitoba liquor marts and get your hands on Canadian Club. The second issue of the Invitation Series, the CC Classic, 18-year-old high proof. The iconic Canadian whiskey brand, Canadian Club, has released the Canadian Club Classic, 18-year-old high proof, the first ever 18-year-old whiskey from Canadian Club, offering the well-known smooth, well-balanced taste of Canadian Club Classic, carefully aged and bottled at a higher proof for a full-body tasting experience. The Canadian Club Classic 18-year-old high proof was just awarded gold at the 2024 International Wine and Spirit Competition. It is available now at local Manitoba liquor marts. It was just released a few weeks ago. And when it's gone, it's gone. A great deal at $79.95 a bottle. Grab it for your parties, for entertaining, and makes a great gift for that whiskey lover on your list. Again, the CC Canadian Club Classic 18-year-old high proof. Get it now while it lasts at your local Manitoba liquor marts. And just as we bring in Hammer, a big happy holidays to our partners over at Wallace & Wallace, the fencing and overhead door specialists in Winnipeg since 1946. Looking into 2025, if your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, they can help you with pretty much any of them. Vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood. And if it's time to replace your garage door, they've also got Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors. Give them a phone call, 204-452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will be happy to arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also visit them at wallacefences.com, wallacedoors.com, or pop down to their showroom on Lawson Crescent off of Kenniston. All right, let's welcome in the Hammer, Jeff Hamilton from the Winnipeg Free Press. What's up? How are you?
I'm great, Huss. I have never played pickleball before, so maybe I'll stick around for the next segment and try to figure out what this game's all about. It's obviously all the rage, but as far as I'm going, I told you off camera, I'm still not feeling as great, still dealing with some of that Christmas bug that's around here, but I will say this, I feel like I'm ahead of the curve this year. I was sick for previous Christmas. I'm just going to get perfectly right in time to get sick again over the holidays. So it's going well, man. It's going well.
Listen, pickleball is, I have not tried it. I've seen it. You know, when the first time I actually ever seen it, you will remember this.
Okay.
We were down in California on a Jets trip, myself and Gary. You were on the road for the paper. Mm-hmm. We went down to Venice Beach on the day off. We rode the bikes around, and that was the first time I saw him. Like, what is with these tiny little tennis courts? What are they playing?
I don't even remember seeing it then. Can't believe you remember that.
I've got a couple pictures of it. I mean, I've always been a racket sports player, so I was really intrigued as to what it was. And it was fun to watch. But, I mean, yeah, it's absolutely exploded, and it continues to grow. Well, we'll talk about it with Mark Arndt right away.
Kirk Benton was there, too. You did him dirty. You didn't mention him part of the gang. That was our whole biker gang. Kirky was down there, too.
Oh my God, good times. That was one of the most fun trips that I think we'd ever had. Mm-hmm. But let's quickly just get back to the Canadian Football League. Things have quieted down a little bit after a really, really busy week last week. Focusing on the Bombers right now. What's next for Kyle Walters? And well, I guess first off, let's talk about, before we talk about players, Ted Gavai is gone. Buck Pierce is gone. What are you hearing about two pretty significant holes in the management structure and coaching staff of the team?
Yeah, I'd like to say that they would have, or should have been planning for Buck Pierce. I'm not saying they weren't planning for Buck to get a job somewhere else. I just don't think they work like that. They don't look for a new car, but without selling their old one first. So I think the search essentially starts in earnest. And by earnest, I mean reaching out or coming up with ideas. And I'm still not sure if the Bombers are there yet. I think they're probably dealing with this idea, whether they want to hire within. I mean, you mentioned two different positions left vacant, an assistant general manager position and obviously an offensive coordinator position. Those are two critical positions within your front office and your executive. I mean, you look at trying to get the management side. From what I've been hearing, there might be a little bit of a how would you say it? A bit of a change in how they do things. I think they want to streamline maybe their scouting, because you look at Danny and Ted, they both had that assistant general manager tag to them. Does that necessarily mean that they want to find another scout to name as an assistant GM, or create a process that they have scouts on salary and maybe, maybe promote somebody from within? I tend to, from what I've been hearing, I tend to believe that second part. Now we'll find out probably in short order here in the next few weeks who that will be, because these meetings need to start in earnest, right? I mean, it is quiet time right now, being December and Christmas right around the corner, but those decisions need to be ramped up. The deals need to be, or extensions need to be offered and figured out. And if they can't be reached, then you need to be looking at what your alternative plans are, whether it be through free agency, through scouting, like every team at this time of the year, identifying the areas, the strengths, the weaknesses, who you feel could fit those roles. You obviously look at, we all know that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and head coach Mike O'Shea reiterated it after this season again, that they make a concerted effort to bring back their own guys. So that's probably the process right now. And once you determine who of the group that you want back that doesn't necessarily feel the same, or maybe gets, maybe wants more money or a different opportunity elsewhere, then you start making some tough decisions. But you look at who's in that building right now, and I do think you have enough minds in that building right now, and simply general manager Kyle Walters and O'Shea to get together and talk about who they want. I don't think that is necessarily being stalled by not having a person in place of Ted Gavea right now. So I do think business is continuing to move on. I do, it was definitely an odd or weird situation earlier in the year, because you didn't know if you could talk to Buck Pierce about future plans. You didn't know if you could talk to Ted about future plans with players. So it was a bit of a tight-lipped process. But now that the fallout's here, that they know, who they lost, I think you can start moving forward in plans, and then at the same time simultaneously look to see who would be a good fit for those vacant spots.
I may have missed this, but has Buck rounded out his staff yet?
I don't think so. It's a good question. I've kind of had my head in the sand a little bit. I don't know that to be true. I do know that he is the offensive coordinator along with the head coach, right? So whether or not he retains Ryan Phillips, I do believe that the staff, Jordan McSimic obviously is moving on, I believe. I do believe the staff is still under contract. So maybe those decisions are still being made and figured out. I don't, I know why you wouldn't want to bring Ryan Phillips back after last season's effort by the BC Lions defense, which was, far and away the worst part of their team. But that being said, maybe that's a one-off. Maybe that's just a 1 year, a dip in one season. So it is a bit of it's definitely a new situation for Buck Pearson trying to assemble a staff, but we'll see. I don't think anything's been confirmed just yet.
Now, as far as the roster goes, we've seen Stanley Bryant come back, and Sergio Castillo and Tony Jones, all key players. But there's still some big names that don't have contracts right now. Are you hearing anything about guys that are close? And where do you think Kyle Walters is starting as he looks at priority re-signings before things get to February?
I think, it also depends too, Huss, on how much money they have left over from this salary cap, right? You can't just be going in and signing players with money that you don't have, or I don't know if you can dip into next year. This would obviously, any deal that was signed in 2024 will go against that cap. So as you mentioned, they obviously had some extra money, additional money to sign Stanley Bryant and Sergio Castillo. Is there leftover money to sign, say, a Patrick Neufeld, who in every other year besides this season seemingly has been, signed on the dotted line? Same story for Willie Jefferson. We talked about this either last week or a couple weeks ago, Huss, about Willie making the comment about his big game in the Grey Cup and how this price isn't the same as last season. So, we'll see how that all, I think that's just mostly words. Willie Jefferson wants to be back in Winnipeg. He's got roots and a foundation here. He lives here. His wife and his kids are both happy here. So there's a lot of reasons why I think you look at some of the big names, they're going to be back. I think one of the areas that, you certainly need to target if you're Kyle Walters is the offensive line, right? This is a group, whether it's retaining or Patrick Neufeld. I look at a guy like Liam Dobson who earned West Division All-Star nod this year, and in his first full season as a starter, and I think he's going to be a guy that you definitely want to have back. He's young, right? How much more can you ask out of the old guys on that line? But at the same time, you need that leadership. So I think Neufeld and Liam Dobson would be two guys that definitely would be be targets to sign sooner than later. You look at the offensive side let's stay on the defensive side a little bit longer. You look at two really, really strong DBs, Huss, and Evan Holm and Tyrell Ford. I don't think there's any movement on Tyrell Ford at this point. He'll continue to have NFL tryouts, I imagine, throughout this month, and he'll be exercising and exploring those options before returning back to a CFL opportunity. So we'll see how that plays out. Evan Holm, just wants a football home. He said at the end of the season at garbage bag day that his wife was pregnant. They're expecting a child soon, and that he wants to settle somewhere, establish roots somewhere. Those roots are firmly established here in Winnipeg. I know Evan really enjoys the team, the dynamic, the players, all those things. He's a quiet guy, but he's a well-respected guy in that locker room, both for what he brings on and off the field. So I guess it will come down to price. I don't see, I'm not speaking for Evan Holm, but I don't see him as a guy that, would chase money. And I don't bring up Demario Houston as an example on the other side. I just think you look at what Evan Holm's done, and the Bombers are super high on Evan Holm. I think they obviously liked Demario Houston, but they saw too much risk in his game and felt like he was dispensable. And you look at the secondary this year, and they weren't exactly wrong. So Evan Holm's a big piece of that puzzle. I think that'll be a strong effort to get him back. On the offensive side, I just don't see both Dalton Schoen and Kenny Lawler returning. I just don't see the Bombers willing to shell out that kind of money, whether it was just seeing what happened this year with 2 injury-plagued seasons. I mean, combined, the two didn't even have 1,000 yards. Now, obviously, Dalton Schoen missed 15 games with a torn ACL. He is young. He is, I imagine he would bounce back pretty quickly. I do think he is ahead of Kenny Lawler as a potential re-signing if it was to be one or the other. Dalton Schoen was a massive security blanket for Zach Collaros. I'm not using it as an excuse for Zach's down season. He certainly had, a year that was down compared to his previous ones in Winnipeg, but you have to think that Dalton Schoen's injury affected his performance pretty mightily.
Well, he basically wasn't even out there. He, for all intents and purposes, missed the whole season. You mentioned Zach Collaros. If Zach was the one cutting the check, or put it this way, if they said, "Hey, we could only have one of these guys," who do you think he feels he needs more? Is it Dalton Schoen or Kenny Lawler?
I don't want to be Mike O'Shea here or somebody else, but that's probably a great question for Zach Collaros. So if you're asking me to get in his mind as someone who, knows him a bit better than the average reporter, I think he loves both. I think he loves both for different reasons. I think Kenny Lawler is a guy that for a lot of years he could launch a deep ball to. Zach loves throwing the deep ball. So if you have a guy like Kenny Lawler who makes 50-50 balls, not so much 50-50 odds, more so in his favor, then, there's certainly an asset to having him back. I just look at the injuries with Kenny, and I look at, which is ironic considering I'm about to get into why Dalton Schoen's probably the guy. But, you look at kind of, the suspension, you look at the injuries, you look at a guy who didn't come out, and this isn't I'm kind of going into my opinion now and certainly not Zach's, but, Kenny's the kind of guy who he's a baller, but, for a team that likes to pride itself on accountability and holding each other accountable, this is 2 years in a row that he hasn't come out after the Grey Cup game and after the garbage walkthrough. So I just don't see that as a leader in the dressing room. I mean, he's obviously a skilled player and is a leader in some capacities, but and the Bombers, I imagine, would love to have him back. But I just think Dalton Schoen is the answer to your question. Whether or not Zach agrees with that is up to his opinion. I don't know what his choice would be, but Dalton's a guy that came in as a rookie and led the league in yards and touchdowns. And again, the second year, I think he led in touchdowns again, despite missing a month of football. So he's a guy that picked up the waggle extremely well, and whether it was deep down the field or in cross routes or short routes, he was wide open. And I think, Zach Collaros definitely misses that. And, it is interesting when you ask that question, you compare this season, just how much the offense was hurting with both those guys out. And then you saw what Kenny was able to do down the stretch heading into the Grey Cup and how much it helped out the offense. So, if my suggestion or my prediction proves true that only one gets to stay, it will be a tough decision, and B, the loss of whoever isn't signed will be great to this attack.
Hey, did you catch the Jets Bruins game on Tuesday night?
Oh yeah.
What did you think of the third period? You're a guy, you mixed it up in the past. I mean, Trent Frederick going over and going after Gus of all people, like I don't know. I think it's stupid. I think it's stupid that here's the thing. I'm kind of a walking contradiction in this, Huss, because I'm viewed by, the public perhaps as being a bit of like maybe on the left. I don't ever have a political kind of like association, but I do a lot of investigative work. I do a lot of stuff that tries to help people out, and that, seems to tend to put me over here. But when the conversation turns to fighting in hockey, I'm the guy who likes fighting in the game. And so that being said, I don't love some of the behavior and the actions. I don't love some of the culture within the sport. And is that a code violation by Trent Frederick going after David Gustafsson?
Well, it depends who you ask, right? If you ask Adam Lowry, probably. If you ask Logan Stanley, certainly. I heard his comments afterwards. If you ask the Bruins, who are getting their asses kicked by a team they probably think they're much better than, and that bench, you probably get a different opinion. I think it's one of those things where there needs to be respect in the game. And I tend to lean on whatever Adam Lowry says, because he's probably one of the most respectable, tough guys in the entire NHL. And I think he probably is the most respectful, tough guy in the NHL, and that he's always kind of saying, whether it's post game or in his interviews after practice, when these kind of topics get brought up, or even unprovoked, always gives a little bit of credit to the other guy for his behavior, whether it's his, his strength and Lowry doesn't lose a lot, but if he does, he gives credit to the other guy, but always in those situations about how he handled it, whether it's going down to the ice, whether it's, and he exercises that same manners, if you will, in the league. So I tend to lean on whatever he would say in these kind of situations. I don't know what he thinks about it. That being said, I do think there is a code in hockey. I think that's why fighting still exists. And so if you're going to have a code that requires fighting, I think that code should be followed when you decide to fight or who you decide to fight. I don't think fighting should be what used to be viewed as something everybody had to do, that if they were, that they were judged or looked upon negatively if they didn't answer the bell in different situations. I know there's a lot of talk about having to fight after big clean hits. Yeah, that's kind of annoying, but it kind of goes both ways, right? All teams do it. It's not like one team gets picked on more than the other and the other one, doesn't do those kind of things. So I definitely think, it's naturally declining, but when you see fighting in games, it is exciting. Nobody gets more excited in the arena than when two guys drop the gloves. That's undebatable. But at the same time, you look at some of the antics and you look at some of the culture around exchanging fisticuffs, and I don't feel always great about my opinion of that in the game either.
Well, I mean, it's funny, and you're exactly right about Adam Lowry. He has too much respect for the game and the players. Like, to be honest, I mean, if it was up to me, and Adam Lowry's going to have a fight in that situation, I would prefer him going over and grabbing Charlie McAvoy, who actually gave a legitimate reason for getting into a fight with that cheap shot on Cole Perfetti.
He's got to be one of the cheapest guys in the NHL, dude. Like, it's just, he's got so many examples where he just doesn't even get penalized. He's got to be like the whiniest baby player who like just chops. I don't get it, man. I mean, he's incredibly talented, but it just never stops with that guy. It's just like he's such a spaz.
Yeah, it was quite different that when the Bruins have their panties in a knot because they're getting smoked on the scoreboard, that Trent Frederick decides to go over David Gustafsson, who has 0 fights in the NHL career, and put it in an absolute no-win situation. I mean, he's either a coward for not doing it, or he says, okay, fine, and gets knocked out and is now in the concussion protocol. I mean, like that to me, it was just so... I mean, that is Bush League, and you don't see that very often. And then when Lowry was saying, okay, this is BS, we're going something, he pulls out Zadorov, the biggest guy on the team, as opposed to doing what that is. I don't know. I'm looking forward to that Jan 30 game in Boston between the Jets. And
Boston's a tough place to play.
Well, so it is. And I mean, again, this will be a conversation for later on in January, but as we get closer to that, is the team makeup the exact same? And certainly.
I think there's a
folks in
big
Boston.
question there, Huss, when it comes down to when these games get out of hand. Who do you look to? Logan Stanley, who may or may not be in the lineup in a month's time, or Adam Lowry, who's your captain and a key part of your shutdown third line. So it's interesting. With Sandberg out of the lineup, the Bombers don't have as much muscle, and maybe that will be the the way other teams treat the Jets, or that's kind of where it goes back to the code, right? You don't have the guys on the bench to necessarily prevent other teams from doing that to you, then it might happen. I'm not saying it's a precautionary tale that the Jets need to go out and get a whole bunch of knuckleheads that are just gonna toss them, but and they'll always want to be on the right side of an 8-1 game. So those third periods, I think they would welcome them. But I think I think when it comes push to shove, the Jets might not have as many players as other teams.
Well, and this is the thing. I mean, we think about Sandberg and the great season that he's had and the physicality he's played with, but I mean, this guy is not a guy. I don't believe he has any fights other than the one that happened. And WSTers will remember this. The Kings game at the beginning of last season, the return of Pierre-Luc Dubois, he got into a scrap in that game, and it was a weird situation where his stick, or one of the guy's sticks, was sort of in between them. You could tell he wasn't very experienced with it, and I mean, he got his lunch handed to him right away, and I don't think we saw that. So, like, as much as he's a guy,
and I don't even mean that as like a guy who can, like, just being bigger, physical presence.
Well, and he's doing all of that and more.
Yeah,
he's been awesome
more,
so far this year.
Sure. Yeah, and I don't think the team wants Sandberg to be dropping the gloves like they apparently encourage Logan Stanley every time he touches the ice. So
yeah, well, listen, I mean, that's I think we all agree that, I mean, if Stan is if he's gonna have his spot in the lineup and he's gonna play that role, he needs to take a lot of that load off of Adam Lowry. I mean, that's just, and if not, I mean, they can find someone else to go and do that. And listen, credit to Stan. I mean, he went up, and I mean, that Kastelic is a big bad dude. I would just love it. I mean, if Stanley could put 15 or 20 pounds on and become, a real menace to society, we would not be ever having any conversations about Logan
What's
Stanley.
Anthony Peluso's? Anyone got Anthony Peluso's number? Just body shot the guy right into submission.
What, 1-day contract? He can retire a Winnipeg Jet, but he actually gets to play in the game on the 30th against the Bruins next month.
Exactly. Just sharpening the knuckles.
Hey, buddy. Hope you're feeling better. Thanks for doing this. Always great chatting with you. Have a great one. And it's not a stretch to say maybe it's a good day just to stay in, don't go outside, get better, and watch that game tonight. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks so much. I can't talk about it right now, but I got a pretty significant story that's going to be dropping tomorrow. So stay tuned for that, and we'll look forward to the next time we cross paths. It's always a pleasure coming on.
Beautiful, buddy. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks so much. There's Jeff Hamilton at Jeff K. Hamilton, and a nice little tease there from the Hammer. Check out tomorrow's edition of the Winnipeg Free Press. We are going to talk about this pickleball story, which I think is going to be of interest to many of you. First up, though, a big cheers from our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right. Hey, listen, tonight might be a night to order in BP if you're not going to the game. But if you are heading out, of course, pick a player contest and more. Best spot to get together with your friends to watch the Winnipeg Jets is your local Boston Pizza. But while we're getting ready for the holidays, don't forget the great gift card deal right now. When you buy a $50 Boston Pizza gift card, you'll receive a free $10 bonus card. And if you have a long gift list or need to buy for your company or office, excuse me, check this out. A 10% bonus, additional 10% bonus on any gift card purchases of $1,000 or more, which means you'll be getting 30% on top of that $1,000, meaning an extra $300 in Boston Pizza gift cards. You can do that at any local BP. And don't forget, Boston Pizza is a great place to have that holiday party. Try the new holiday menu in the dining room, or have a casual party in the sports bar, or you can also get the BP catering team to set up and serve your office. By the way, check out those new holiday menu items. You've got the spicy shrimp fettuccine and the ribbon wing duo. I did try that ribbon wing duo last night. It was phenomenal. BP wings are the best. Love the ribs as well. They got a great a cranberry barbecue sauce for the holidays right now. So check that out at your local BP. And if you are on Skip, by the way, I did take advantage. I sure as heck wasn't going out last night. I did take advantage of a $10 off promo, which you can find out if you are looking for delivery. And hey, of course, Royal Sports is ready for the holidays. And I was talking to the guys yesterday, or 2 days ago, I guess, about just how busy it is right now. But, I mean, this is the time of year to go in and take care of all that Christmas shopping at one spot. Just like Brandon asked earlier, you just go down to Royal Sports. All the Jet fans in the family, you can take care of them. Jerseys, hats, hoodies, toques. They've got it all for you. And, of course, they can customize a jersey as you like with your favorite player's name and number, or your own. Of course, they've got exclusive bomber gear, all the stuff from your favorite NFL teams, NBA, Major League Baseball, international soccer, skates, hockey equipment, sticks, the biggest hockey selection in town. But make sure to check out everything on the other side of the store at the King's Skate, Snow, and Surf. Some amazing gift ideas from Yeti, Herschel, and some of the top brands around. Follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg. You can see some of the latest merchandise drops, sale information, some great gift ideas as well that they're putting up on the story. Take care of Christmas in one stop. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. And again, Royal Sports Winnipeg on Instagram for all that information. All right, we're going to have this conversation and bring in Mark Arndt in just a second. And it's been really interesting seeing all the comments about pickleball in the chat today. And it was pointed out to me, you can tell by my naivete, that when we were down in Venice Beach and what I thought was pickleball was actually, it has been pointed out, was paddle tennis. So I guess that's a little different. But bottom line is pickleball is exploding. Remo, do me a favor. Throw up a poll in the chat. I'm very interested of Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners and everyone here, how many people have tried pickleball at one point? Have you played anywhere? I mean, even if it was a one-shot deal, you're out at a resort on vacation, have you tried it out? Very interested how many of you have actually tried the game. I have not yet. I'm actually sort of surprised just because I have seen it. I've seen how it's been growing. As a guy that's always loved racket sports, I'm a little late to the game, but many people aren't. So let us know. Polls up. Have you tried pickleball or not? It is the fastest growing sport on the planet. And our pal Mark Arndt, moving on from Tennis Manitoba to grow the game, if you will. And Winnipeg is a big part of that growth. Let's welcome Mark Arndt in and find out all about it right now on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Mark, what's up? How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Lots is happening, and I'm still. You just told me 1,000 shows. Sorry, but I can't believe how fast time has been flying.
Yeah, we're coming up. I think this is like 9:44 or something like that. But yeah, March is going to be the 4-year anniversary of WST, and we are looking forward to a big 1,000th show. Lots has been happening for us and certainly for you. Listen, I have to admit, since I've known you for a long time, I mean, you have been sort of synonymous with tennis in this province and have worked so hard to grow the game. I imagine it wasn't an easy decision to move on from your role as the leader of the tennis operation here in the province.
Yeah, it's 12, 13 years as executive director of Tennis Manitoba, plus operating the ATP National Bank Challenger Tennis Tournament. It was tough to move on. I mean, I'm still involved in the professional men's tournament that'll still go on. So I'll still have my foot in tennis. But no, definitely, we had a great opportunity with the Picklr and with pickleball being on the rise. I'm excited about the decision. Time for new things. I mean, I love sport, any type of sport. I do like sports. It's been a part of my life, and to be in sport management in a different capacity with a different sport and seeing it grow and rise. I'm very thankful and excited for the opportunity.
I guess as far as, the work in tennis goes, I mean, you move on with a pretty great legacy here. I mean, for folks that aren't familiar with the new facility, the professional tournament that's brought, I mean, there has been a lot that you have worked on. And I imagine kind of moving over to this new challenge with the Picklr and the incredible growth of pickleball, you can look back and be pretty happy to where the tennis product is right now here in the province since you started.
Yeah, definitely. No, I was lucky to be surrounded by a great board at Tennis Manitoba that really, sometimes you hear horror stories working with boards and things of that nature. But, I was in a fortunate situation, had great people around. And again, as much as whatever's left behind and still there's lots to do, as I don't think there's ever a finish line. But at the same time, there's great people in place to keep it going, and new ideas will come along as well with the new person that'll be sitting in that executive director chair. And it's exciting times as well for tennis. I mean, tennis is great in Canada and on the world stage as well. And again, having that pro tournament here to be able to still be a part of, so I'll still feel that I'm involved in the growth of that sport in the province. But
now, let me ask you this. Tennis is, this very, very old sport that has been around forever, has, many passionate people, both athletes, fans of it. And pickleball is this new sport that has been growing at, a nuclear rate over the last number of years. What's the relationship between tennis and pickleball? Is it a synergist relationship? Are they competitors? Like, is this to use a wrestling term, is this a heel turn for you going from tennis to the hot new upstart of pickleball?
Well, when people found out, friends and colleagues, it's like, oh, you're going over to the dark side and all that. And we laugh about it, but no, honestly, the people in tennis, the people in pickleball, and I've had a chance to be on committees. For Tennis Canada, I was on the pickleball committee. Like, we were watching what pickleball was doing through the years and the growth and all. And so I did have insider information on what was happening with pickleball, and every club, every president that I talked to in Manitoba and beyond, I was the same thing. The question is, why are they pitting us against each other and making us look like we're enemies and all that? And partially because I think the municipalities and cities were putting pickleball lines onto tennis courts, and the tennis players were upset about that. And because, I mean, having more lines on courts, it just distracts from line calling. People tend to cheat a bit as it is when you have to call your own lines. Now add a few more lines onto it, it distracts, and they can use that as a reason why, I made a bad mistake on that call. But I mean, with pickleball, I was also saying, we don't want to be on tennis courts either. They keep putting us together, but we have to adjust the nets for on tennis courts to make them lower for pickleball. And so we're all in agreement. It's kind of funny how the outsiders are pitting us against each other, but really we just want to stay in our own lanes. If you're confident in your own product, tennis is a great product. It's a fantastic product that's been around for hundreds of years, and now pickleball is new, and it's in itself a great product. And it's not really a competition. I think what it was with a company like the Picklr, which really excited me to be a part of, is the more pickleball facilities that are built, it'll stay out of the tennis facilities, out of encroaching on tennis. So I mean, strategically, it's better for tennis that companies like the Picklr will exist, and other companies other facilities will show up. So it will help to give the sport of tennis and help pickleball as well.
Yeah, I would imagine that. I mean, if we put up a Venn diagram of tennis players and pickleball players, I mean, there's a pretty big overlap. Now, it might not be at the same time, but I think a lot of people, sort of get into pickleball having a bit of a background in tennis at some point. But listen, before we go any further, because I mean, I think a lot of people have played it, have heard of it. Other people have just heard about this, and you hear more and more. Can you explain for people that have not played pickleball or just heard about it, that are not familiar, explain what it is, how it is different from tennis, and basically the basics of the unique nature of what the game is?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing optically, when you look at a pickleball court versus a tennis court, I mean, it's more than half the size of a tennis court. Okay, I mean, so that's the first thing, and that's what's appealing, because some people that might be, might see this huge tennis court, it's daunting. It's like, oh my God, I have to be like super fit to play and to cover that span, and so automatically, that's the first thing that stands out is the size of the court. Okay, and then another one is, I mean, there are a lot of overlaps. I mean, the strokes are very close, the footwork and all of that, and very similar. I mean, there are a lot of tennis players that do go over, and pickleball players that come over to tennis as well. But I mean, the scoring system is a little bit different. It's tennis, a scoring system. I mean, with the love 40, 15-40 and all that, that's to explain that to a newcomer is difficult. I'm not going to say it's a simple scoring system in pickleball, and I mean, again, for me, the biggest thing for pickleball is definitely the size of the court, and that's a differentiator from tennis.
The racket and the balls are a little different. What about rules as far as strokes?
Yeah, so the racket and ball is a perfect example. Yeah, it's paddles for the for pickleball, and the ball is more of a wiffle ball. It's not a tennis ball at all. It's a plastic ball with the holes in it, and so that's the big one right there. Paddle is a lot smaller, of course. It's almost a little bit smaller than a racquetball racket, closer to table tennis, just somewhere in between, I guess. But the strokes, I mean, I know I can speak from experience. Tennis players that go over to play pickleball, basically, they tend to overhit and hit too hard. And pickleballers, the pure pickleball players, they kind of tend to get mad at tennis players and saying, you don't have to hit the ball as hard. You don't have to go for it. There's more touch involved here. And so stop overplaying it and stop overhitting and trying to kill everything all the time. But that's just the nature, because tennis, you do have to use all your energy, all your strength. Whereas pickleball, it's more of a softer game. And that's what's appealing as well. I mean, it's not as physical. It's not as demanding that way. I mean, tennis, you get a lot of wrist injuries, shoulder injuries because of the impact and the I guess the aggressiveness of the sport. Whereas pickleball, it's a little bit more gentler on your body, and that's what's appealing to the broad masses.
So as we get into your new role, with the Picklr, and we talk about that, I just, for our listeners, if you could, tell us about how, because a lot of people have heard about this, but I'm not sure they've really wrapped their head around just how big this sport is and the insane rate that it's grown over the last 5-10 years.
So I'll tell you, I heard a stat the other day, tennis and golf together in North America, it's 45 million people playing. Pickleball's at 40 million on its own and growing. And pickleball like 3 years ago was around 5 million. But in the last 2 years, and also since COVID, I mean, COVID had a huge thing to do with it. But since that period, 5 million to 40 million. I mean, that's massive. And when you look at golf and tennis combined, 45, and it's growing. Pickleball is growing. Where I think it's an easy sport to pick up. You don't have to have massive skills to begin with. You and I can start playing within 5-10 minutes. We're rallying back and forth because the ball doesn't travel as fast as tennis, as squash or racquetball, and I mean, it's a lot easier to pick up and to play and stay in the game for any type of an athlete.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly does seem like it's and this is a great thing for the Picklr, a very inclusive game that, pretty much anyone can give it a go and probably enjoy. So you're moving from tennis and you're now the chief growth officer of the Picklr, which is going to be great news for Canadian fans of the game and players, and sounds like really good for Winnipeg as well. I mean, you give us the lowdown on what the Picklr is and what you're going to be doing now in your new role.
Yeah, so basically our goal at Picklr Canada is to open our target is 65 locations like you see on your screen there across Canada, coast to coast. So headquarters will be here in Winnipeg, and I'm proud to say that, being a Winnipegger born and raised here, creating job opportunities as well, and central part of Canada. So all of our training will be done at the master franchise here in Winnipeg, and so we'll be flying people in for training, onboarding, and it's basically right now. I just laugh, what's your title? And I'm not a guy that's for titles or anything like that. So I'll be like jack of all trades to get things going at first. I mean, the office is small right now, the staff is small, but got a great support system here for Canada, and then basically the U.S. headquarters in Salt Lake City, Utah. They're fantastic. I mean, the blueprint, the template that they have for us to follow and to roll out into Canada. I mean, it's exciting times for any pickleball players. I mean, it's an exciting time. I was saying because we're opening it, but I mean, looking at the facilities, and I was very fortunate to be at a grand opening in Scottsdale, Arizona last month, and walking into the facility, it is impressive. I mean, they did their homework, they did it right, and I mean, the U.S. has over 400 locations that are either opened or signed on to be opened within the next little while. So that
we're looking at this photo here right now, or this little video run through, and it looks like an amazing facility. I mean, and these are all over the place. I mean, in standalone locations, also in former empty retail spots, and I think that's been a huge hole, just as things have changed post-pandemic. Is this essentially what we're looking at, sort of what you will see regardless of where what location you're at, if you will?
Exactly. You hit it on the head, and that's a great question statement. But yeah, what you see there is what we have to do it that way, from location to location, whether Nova Scotia or BC or anywhere in between. They will all look the same, of course, depending on the size of the building. So the orientation of the courts may be a little bit different, but once you're on a court, they will look the same, whether you play again in Winnipeg or if you play in Boston. It'll be exactly the same. The court system, I mean, we have a patented court system. The pickleball is known to be a loud sport, and that's one of the negatives supposedly out there, is that it's so loud when you're on there. But if you can see where those lights are up on the ceiling, there's a sound baffling system as well, which brings down the noise. And having been in one of these, it definitely does work. And then you see from the nets to all the change rooms and the flooring and all that, it is consistent throughout. So I'm going to use, say, McDonald's or Starbucks as an example, but the coffee and the fries are the same whether you're wherever you are worldwide, and that's what it will be. And I mean, we are in talks. The U.S. headquarters is now in talks with. They're actually in Japan right now, and we'll be opening up in Japan, Australia, Germany. So it is. The Picklr's coming. I mean, it is coming. It will be filling a gap, and we're going to be standardizing the sport of pickleball. Right now, it's kind of like a wild west. The rules are kind of loose, and there's no real. Well, I'll use an example. Sport Canada doesn't recognize pickleball as an official sport yet, nor does Sport Manitoba. Pickleball is there is a Pickleball Manitoba, but it's not recognized as an official sport. But that will be coming, I think, down the pipeline, and we look forward to great things ahead.
So what does this mean for Winnipeg pickleball players? I mean, I was looking at our pal Josh Frey-Sam's piece in the Free Press, and I was joking to you before. I'm like, oh, how did you guys get this? How'd you get these guys out to do this photo op? These guys were actually clearing off the court and playing pickleball in the snow. The demand is obviously quite high. So what does this mean for, let's just focus on Winnipeg pickleball players in Manitoba. What does it mean for them? And what are the goals of when the first Picklr, sort of the headquarters, if you will, the flagship franchise for Canada, when might that be operational for people to play at?
Sure. What does it mean for local players? I mean, right now they're playing in gymnasiums, on hardwood floors, on linoleum floors, asphalt, whatever it may be. What it means for pickleball players here is you will have a premium option to play pickleball, a consistent option. You will have the proper lines. You will have a proper facility, proper sight lines behind to play, and it will be a great experience. And we know, I mean, people have to, when they come and they try something new for the first time, I mean, that first impression, you only have a first chance to make that first impression. So that is our goal, to make a great first impression where people do want to come back and to give that premium experience. And that's what this is. And I'm confident, having seen, again, been in a few of these Picklrs, you will get that. And what it means, I mean, if we can, I mean, it's a little bit ambitious, but I mean, we're looking at opening the first one in September, ready for the indoor season. September 2025 is what our goal is right now. And we're in negotiations with a facility, with a space at the moment. And I think it is realistic, actually, to be open for the fall of 2025. And again, once you experience it, I think people will be very happy with it.
Mark Arndt is with us. He's now the Chief Growth Officer for the Picklr, which for the Canadian operation will be headquartered in Winnipeg, working on a new facility. As he just mentioned, the goal is September of 2025. I just want to pick up on something that you just mentioned. You've got these millions and millions of people playing this, but it is not officially recognized by, the provincial, the national sporting authorities. What needs to happen? And when will, how long of a process is that? And is there one organization, if you will, that's sort of pushing that forward?
Well, it all comes down to budget. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, we've got, I believe, 72 sports in Manitoba that are recognized, and again, funding only goes so far. And we were approached when I was at Tennis Manitoba. I was approached to bring pickleball under our wing and to help the sport along. And my first question was, okay, so what's the increase in funding that we're receiving? And it's like, well, there won't be any. We're just hoping that you can help organize. And it's like, well, I can't take away from tennis to get to pickleball. I mean, I'd be fired in a second. I mean, my head would be on a platter. So, all joking aside, so that, I'm surprised that it has taken as long as it has, especially seeing the growth, the numbers that I gave you earlier, and climbing each day. So I think it's going to be sooner than later. I mean, there's talks for pickleball to be an Olympic sport, not in Los Angeles, but the next time around after that. I think there's a realistic possibility, but the sport for it to be recognized on an Olympic level has to be played in the elementary schools, in the high schools, and into colleges and universities. So there has to be that pathway. So I think pickleball is establishing that pathway. It is well organized, but still, hopefully, again, a place like the Picklr, which we will standardize, we will have a permanent home for leagues and championships and nationals and things like that. The national governing bodies and the provincial governing bodies will recognize that, and will have to acknowledge it. So I think we're close, and a place like the Picklr will definitely help speed up the process to get the sport recognized.
Well, this is really exciting news for the thousands of Manitobans that are already playing and clearing off snow to play on courts outside right now. Mark, where can people, I think there are still a lot of people that have heard about it, but they haven't tried it. Where, for people that are interested, both in finding out more on the Picklr and the plans for Winnipeg and Canada, but also the sport as well, where can they go to get a little bit more on it?
Yeah, so the Picklr.com is the website to go to, and that'll tell the whole story about the Picklr. And then, if you go to Pickleball Canada, has their website as well. So those are two great places to start. Just Googling pickleball in general in Canada, that'll help explain. And right now, I guess, community centers around town do offer programs. I don't know those details. And again, it is scattered all over the place, but the Picklr will help organize and bring together this community. And it is a strong community. And I'm just saying that with a smile on my face, because I know there's a need to fill here, and the Picklr will be that gap stop.
Well, listen, Mark, on a personal level, congratulations on the new move. It seems really exciting. It has been really neat to follow the incredible growth of this sport. And I think these facilities, not just here in Winnipeg, from coast to coast, are going to fill a big need. And I'm looking forward to see what is in the future for pickleball as the Picklr and you guys get going opening these across the country and allowing people places to play 12 months a year on an amazing and real professional setup. All the best going forward, and we'll stay in touch. Can't wait to hear more about the grand opening as things continue to progress.
Thank you, Hustle. I appreciate you as always. Thanks for having me.
All right, really appreciate Mark coming on. That was interesting. Maybe we'll have to have a WST Pickleball Classic next year or something like that. Interesting to note that about 3 in 10 of you have tried pickleball. So obviously there's still many more people that haven't played it, but man, that number of 40 million players was a bit of an eye-opener. But it is everywhere, and this will be great to get devoted, high-end pickleball facilities. And I think the tennis players will be happy because they'll get their courts back as well, and they won't be being used for pickleball as well. Anyways, we'll stay in touch with Mark. Appreciate him jumping on as well. All right. We got to get to the Coolbet lines. Busy night tonight in the National Hockey League. But don't forget, everybody, if you haven't already, a week Saturday is the Winnipeg Jets and Winnipeg Sports Talk holiday game. Saturday night, December 21st, Jets and the Minnesota Wild. It is the December game of the month for WST. Grab yourself some tickets with the crew and join us to get festive and hopefully deliver season's beatings to one of the Jets' biggest rivals. Click the link in the description for the link, or just simply go to winnipegjets.com/WST and grab your tickets for the game against the Minnesota Wild. Your ticket includes a beer or a beverage with it that you'll be able to use from your Jets 360 app, and we'll gather the gang in the hangar outside section 316 before the game, during intermissions, and have everyone sitting in the same section. We're 2-0. First couple games have been awesome, and we look to go 3-0 against no better team to beat going into the holidays than the Minnesota Wild. So December 21st, make it happen. Get your tickets while they're there right now. winnipegjets.com/WST. We should mention, too, for those of you that are looking at some Christmas gifts for Jet fans, Jets have a great promo on right now, the Holiday Bundle. Perfect gift for your loved ones or that Jets fan in the family. $109 plus tax gets you not one but 2 tickets and a Winnipeg Jets toque. 6 games to choose from. Predators on Jan 7, Canucks on Jan 14, Calgary Jan 26, the Islanders on February 7th, Sharks February 24th, or the fan appreciation game in April against the Anaheim Ducks. Available now at Jets Gear, so you can pop in, grab your toque, grab your tickets, and have a nice little stocking stuffer or gift for that Jets fan in the family. But next Saturday, join us, WST holiday game, winnipegjets.com/WST. All right, let's get the Coolbet lines up. And Remo, I'm feeling some pressure after one of the all-time great days in Lock Shop history and hitting that 8-1 Jets same-game parlay for the WST special. We got a huge slate of games tonight, but one we're focusing in on, and that, of course, is the one right here in the Peg.
Yes, Jets, Golden Knights. It is South Asian Heritage Night, so expecting some big celebrations for that. And, man, you really nailed it on Tuesday's game. You said, I'm going to be a little aggressive, pick Pionk and Niederreiter. I was like, man, I don't know about that one, Huss. On the first goal, they both got a point. You were set, smooth sailing from that. All you needed was the win, although the under 2.5, too.
Yeah, I was nervous. I'm like, watch 2 BS goals go in the last 3 minutes and somehow prevent us from winning. That didn't happen. Always believe in Connor Hellebuck. He got it done. So, yes, now this isn't up yet. I've just sent it in. It will be up in the next few minutes, I'm sure, in the exclusives. But we're going to go with the Jets win. We're going with the Gabriel Velarde goal and a Josh Morrissey point. So I would imagine Velarde is plus 195. The Jets are minus 122. And Morrissey is, I think, minus 125 for a point. So we should be probably in and around 5-1, maybe 5.5-1, that sort of thing. So that'll be up in the exclusives. We do have a lock shop partner parlay for the football game tonight, which we'll get to. But, while we're talking exclusives, I may as well mention it. George Kittle, 5 or more receptions. Cooper Kupp, 6 or more receptions. And Deebo Samuel, 16 or more rushing yards. That one's boosted to plus 530. That's also over in the exclusive section. Now, we do have the For the Community cash last week. With Dusty, with so many Edmontonians and Winnipeggers following the lock shop. And this is one, you don't even have to be down with the Oilers, but if you're a Jets fan, you'll love this. Jets to beat Vegas and the Edmonton Oilers to beat the Wild. So you can decide that this is an Oilers to win bet, or you can decide this is a Wild to lose bet. Either way, if it comes through, we all win. That one's boosted up. That one's boosted up to plus 250 right now. So a nice little boost from plus 210 or 218 to plus 250. And then we do have a partner parlay. I put this one up, hoping to keep the hot streak going. Tampa over Calgary. Avalanche over Utah. And I do think we'll see a big bounce back from the Boston Bruins, Remis, after being embarrassed the way they were here on Tuesday. I like Boston in Seattle to beat the Kraken. That one was 376. Got a nice little boost up to plus 432.
Yeah, I'm curious, how will Boston respond after getting blown out? And against Seattle, hasn't really gone that well for them. And Colorado, moving on, second game with Scott Wedgwood. I don't know when we're going to see Mackenzie Blackwood, but they had a big game the other day. And here we are again against Utah.
Here's the full slate of games tonight. The Caps are minus 154 favorites in Columbus. Penguins slight favorite at minus 112 in Montreal to take on the Habs. The Kings are in New Jersey. Kings have been red hot, but Jersey's one of the top teams in the East. New Jersey minus 147. Flyers, coming off that win against Columbus, are back at home to Detroit, minus 119 faves. Leafs are a huge minus 417 favorite against the Ducks. You got the Blackhawks on Long Island to take on the Islanders. Islanders minus 189 favorites. Stars minus 216 over the Preds. No Roman Josi for Nashville. That is going to make that elusive 8th win that much tougher to come by. The Sharks are in St. Louis. St. Louis minus 172. Oilers are a minus 134 road favorite against the Minnesota Wild. Wild are a little bit like the Jets. They don't seem to get the respect that maybe they deserve, that their record has a thing. But hopefully the bookies are right, and Edmonton gets the win tonight. Tampa's minus 154 in Calgary. Avalanche minus 182 at home to Utah. Bruins minus 116 favorites, slight favorites in against the Kraken. The Panthers are minus 174 favorites in Vancouver. So if you like to put together a hockey parlay, you got 13, 14 games tonight in the National Hockey League. Now, as far as the Jets game goes, the Jets to win minus 122. Vegas is plus 104. Total for the game is 5.5. And as we look at a few of the props to score tonight, Kyle Connor plus 139. Jack Eichel plus 180. Gabriel Velarde 2-1. Well, we're going with Velarde tonight. Mark Scheifele's plus 205. Mark Stone plus 245. And as far as player points, Jack Eichel has the lowest number, minus 219. Plus 161 to not get a point. Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele next up for the Jets at minus 187 at minus 169. Oh, by the way, check the promotions tab, because there is the Christmas calendar and new offers every day. If you are a Coolbetter, if you haven't played a Coolbet before, go in, use the promo code WST. When you make your first deposit, you get a 100% bonus up to $200. If you are like many of us that have been betting at Coolbet for a long time, they've got a nice little gift for you today as part of the 12 Days of Christmas promo. A 100% bonus on $50. So deposit 50, get 50. There is a promo code for that. And today's is the 12th. Yeah, you make a deposit with bonus code 24XMAS12 and get a 100% sport bonus up to $50. So that's in the promotions tab. Click on that. We will have the WST parlay up very shortly, and that'll be in the exclusive sections. And let's keep it rolling. As far as the NFL goes tonight, big one. Niners and Rams. This has been going back and forth between 2.5 to 3. Right now it's showing Niners -3, but that's at even money, or plus 101, and the Rams +3 at -119. Money line, Rams +131, Niners -145. What do you think about this game, Remis? Huge game in the NFC West. The Niners can essentially eliminate San Francisco and push Seattle, who've got a tough game hosting the Packers on the weekend for the top spot in that division.
Yeah, Niners can eliminate the Rams. I think you meant there. But, yeah, I would mean. You said
Rams
Niners.
are 7-6.
You said Niners can eliminate San Francisco?
Oh, I meant the Rams can eliminate San
okay.
Francisco.
I wasn't. Yeah, okay, sorry.
The Rams are in it. Yeah, the Niners are pretty much done unless they run the table.
All right. Maybe the Niners have one last gasp in them. What are they on? Their 6th-string running back?
Is Garendo playing?
I don't think so. What is it? I haven't really been up to date. Is it Patrick Taylor's season for them? But it just hasn't gone the Niners' way. It is interesting. The Rams, though, as underdogs, they're the team that has the better record. Seems fishy. I don't know.
Well, and coming off putting up 44 on the Bills, to me, this offense is just rolling at such a high level right now.
Yeah, when they have Kyron Williams, Puka, and Cooper Kupp, they're all healthy. The offense does roll. When a couple of them are out, as they've been for the start of the year, they really had trouble. Matt Stafford, he can still sling it. Maybe you do go Rams as the underdog. It is kind of fishy, Hess, that they would be an underdog after that. I guess maybe they're saying, hey, this is really pick 'em because you give them 3. Because it's in San Francisco.
That's exactly it. Shanahan has traditionally had his way. He's got a great record against McVay and the Rams. It's sort of they always have. The Seattle does well against the Niners. All of those teams going back, but the NFC West, the best case scenario is that the Rams win and the Seahawks lose, and then maybe Arizona wins this weekend, and you got a real 3-horse race coming down the stretch because there's not a lot of drama in most of these other playoff races right now. Total for the game is 48.5. You can jump on that over at Coolbet. And again, if you go to the exclusives, you will see very shortly the WST parlay up and ready to roll. Great show today. Cannot wait for this game today. And tomorrow, Ken is going to join us to break it all down and get ready for the Montreal Canadiens coming to town on Saturday night. Patrick Liney's looking great. I'm sure he'll get a warm welcome back to Winnipeg. Great to see him doing what he's been doing, but hopefully not at the expense of the Jets on Saturday night. One thing to get to before we go, Remis. Did you hear that Bill Belichick has accepted the head coaching job at the University of North Carolina? And after this incredible NFL career, the greatest of all time, the most successful of all time, he's going to the NCAA.
Yeah, I'm really confused by that, Huss. He's 72 years old. He's done all you can do in the NFL. He's done a great job on TV and podcasts. And who would have thought the guy who seemingly hated answering any questions would be so forthcoming and have so many great stories? I don't know. Is UNC, are they even a good school? It's not really a high-profile football school.
UNC, they've had some players there in the past, but I mean, they're not by any stretch, a powerhouse or anything like that. I believe they're in the ACC. They've had a few guys that Was Drake May from NC?
I'm not sure. I'm excited to hear what Hacksaw has to say about it tomorrow, but seems like an odd move, and the jokes are flying about, him wanting to be closer to his young girlfriend or something like that. I'm already seeing it.
Well, I was just thinking that, yes, his 24-year-old girlfriend probably will be very comfortable being in and around campus. You can get a whole new group of friends her age and then hook up with Coach Bill after practice.
Yeah, and I've seen, a lot of jokes there. How will he treat the student reporters who are asking him questions? People are having fun with that. I mean, I guess he's a football guy. He's a lifer. He wants to still coach. I mean, how are college kids going to respond? Maybe it's a draw for them. 72 years old, has still going. And I thought he'd be on TV. He was great. He goes in the Manning cast. Maybe he can still do that. Now? I have no idea. But my whole timeline, Bill Belichick.
Yeah,
that's my whole thing.
Well, I mean, here. This was the other thing. I mean, is Bill Belichick's 24-year-old girlfriend on the hot seat now that he's going to be at a college campus surrounded by all those other co-eds?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they've got a pretty solid relationship, right?
Oh, I'm sure they do. I'm sure. So, yeah, the stuff writes itself. Yeah, Drake May. I was right. Drake May was at UNC. So, I mean, they're not, he's not taking over like a disaster program, but it's never really been a powerhouse.
It's not like Alabama, Michigan, LSU. It's not like one of these big schools, that, have had a lot of, that are up there for the championship games. Like, you don't really hear UNC football. You hear UNC basketball. So I'm confused. So I have to read more into it.
I think Trubisky. Did Mitch Trubisky go there too? Now that I think about it, they've actually, not that Mitch was a great NFLer.
Oh, here we go. Here's the list.
He was the second overall pick.
They have.
Yeah, and he was North Carolina Tar Heels. Man, I'm pulling these out of thin air here.
I did Google it. Yes, Sam Howell was the other one. Did he play for the Washington football team?
Commanders or WFT?
Were they WFT at the time? And Trubisky? I don't remember Marquise Williams, but he was there as well. So,
well, I'm sure the recruiting went up. I mean, he's planning on turning this into like a professional style operation, and preparing these young men to become NFL players, and be really interesting to see how that goes. We will talk to Hacksaw about that. He will join us tomorrow on the program, as will Ken Weave. We'll get ready for Jets Habs. We'll break down Jets Vegas Golden Knights, give you all the other top stories in the world of sports, and do our famous WST Friday marble race. So make sure to join us tomorrow live at 1 p.m. Pop in around 2:45 for the marble race. And whatever you do, stay warm, everyone. I'll be down at the arena tonight. Hope to see you all there. And otherwise, make a point of popping back here as we fire it up 1 p.m. for another edition of WST. Thanks to Brandon, Hammer, and Mark Arndt for jumping on the program today. Again, WST exclusive will be up at Coolbet in the exclusive sections in the next few minutes, so jump on that. Hopefully we can go 2-0 this week. And otherwise, just bundle up if you're going outside. I'll leave it at that. But as I mentioned off the top of the program, if we were going to get a 2-day blast of extreme cold, let it be when the Vegas Golden Knights are here. That's going to do it for us, folks. For Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Paterson. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.